Greetings, brothers and sisters. So today's Wednesday, July 24th. And I got a big video coming up with Kamala Harris, some stuff with her if I can get through it. She's so hard to listen to. Well, I should say, first of all, that, my channel is having a little bit of a renaissance, a little bit of a rebound, but not as good as it should be doing. And so, my channel was on the ropes, and I interacted with these YouTube bots, and they said they weren't shadow banning, but then they started to, send out notifications, and people hadn't watched videos in years, showed up, all these things. My views have basically doubled. Of course, it's a very intense time. People have sought me out because of what's going on and wanted to hear what I had to say about it. So some of it, a lot of different things going on. But to keep the momentum going, people have to show YouTube that they want to hear, there's interest in my channel. And ways to do that is to comment, like videos, all those things. Make sure you're subscribed, notifications. There's a membership program. There's a super chat donation thing, all these things, right? But anyways, I have to say that every time now just because, my channel was on the ropes. Like I was, wondering what I was going to do. Moving forward. But anyways, let's get back to it. So Kamala's really hard to listen to, but then also Jojo Magoo put out a video I just watched from the Oval Office, again, violating the rules of conduct, making it political, using the Oval Office and interrupting, whatever was going on in network TV and the news stations. And I get all that tomorrow. I'll start working on that after I get this video done. So Trump did a interview with Jesse Walter, him and his J.D. Vance. And it's atrocious. Some of it's laughable. Some of it's just, Trump gets caught lying over and over again about this event. He's donning a smaller BandAid, which I'm going to show you all this stuff. And it's an extension. I saw this interview. I released this video this morning. If you're not willing to consider that Ketchupgate might be fake, you're not a truther, you're a sheeple. And this, what I'm making today, is really an extension of that video. Because Trump is caught just bald-faced lying and misrepresenting the events that happened. Impossible events. A miracle curving bullet that only nicked his ear. And, fake blood that dried almost immediately and wasn't on, all these things I've covered, right? What this is about, I want to keep this short today, but what this is about is when you're talking to someone and you have what you would consider overwhelming evidence. You're talking to one of your sheeple relatives or somebody, and they won't even look at the evidence. They're completely closed to it. They won't even consider the possibility. And again, I'm not saying that they're necessarily going to see it the way you're going to see it, but they're not even looking at it, right? They might look at the evidence differently, but again, are you being somewhat objective with it? And at least saying, yeah, this looks bad. At least just be honest about it. Like, it looks fake, right? If this was Biden, you would say it's fake. And I'm talking about the Trumpers here, but I had some comments where people were like, oh, you're such a bad person for even thinking that. What, for even thinking that Donald Trump, a pathological liar who's been involved in staging political events before and non-political events and WWE shit and just lying all the time and being a flim-flam man and going Chapter 11 and cheating on all of his wives. What do you think he did when he cheated on his wives? You think he wasn't lying about that, right? And multiple girlfriends and things like this, taking advantage of his money and all these things, porn stars and the rest of it. He's a scumbag, right? And so he's totally capable of doing this. And the powers that be have done this over and over again, staged these kind of events. We've seen it over and over again. And they're not believable. They're not credible. And I gave the example from my own life that I couldn't get a divorce from my ex years and years ago when I realized it was going to suck for me. Like it was going to be a horrible marriage. I was stuck in something that could only go one way. And and anybody who was in my life that was going to make that harder, once I realized I was stuck in this situation and I couldn't leave, even now I look back and I say I couldn't, there was just with the kids and all the situation, it was not an option for me to leave, to get a divorce, right? And so anybody who would have criticized her or, just talked negatively about my situation, I couldn't have them in my life because they were making something that was already bad worse, right? Not that people were doing it, but I couldn't talk to them. I couldn't really say, yeah, this is what I'm going through, but there's nothing I can do about it because it would just make things worse, right? The only thing they could say is, well, Jesus, right? Like, it was so bad. I mean, when you're having an argument with somebody and then you have to go hide the knives because they might attempt suicide or pretend to attempt suicide or whatever, self-harm, start cutting themselves, right? And, that's just not a situation and that's just one small piece of a bad situation. So, but given the circumstances, I couldn't leave. And that's one thing. You're stuck in something, you're stuck in a job, you can't leave. So you can't look, once you start going negative about it, even this is how I've been able to tolerate YouTube. YouTube has been sort of, an abusive relationship for everyone here, not just truthers. YouTube exploits all of us, uses all of us, and then throws us away. YouTube is not all these social media giants and, the way that they've mistreated the truth community and all, all the whole thing. Dishonest and, corporate stuff. But I've been able to stick around by not focusing on the bad things. But at least with YouTube, there is some positive things. Like YouTube, there are things I'm getting from them that is helpful. There, it's definitely a 70%, 30%, 70%, 80% from me, 20 to 30% from them, right? It's not an equal partnership, but I can now be honest about YouTube's shortcomings and difficulties and the way that they, the abusive stuff, and still not get negative about it to where I would just leave because it's, once you start thinking about it all the time and you just see how unfair it is and all these things, right? I've learned and matured into realizing that I can both be honest about how something can be unfair and be, abusive in some cases like this or whatever, and still endure it, right? And be able to endure it and do my duty and do what I'm supposed to do. And so, that's something that just out of years of, the things I've gone through and years of, just maturing and things, something I couldn't have done in my youth, right? But what we're talking about here with the Trumpers isn't something like that. Like, some things are situational, relationships, a job that you can't leave because you don't want to starve, right? Things that you just have to eat because you just have to, right? You don't have to vote for Trump. You don't have to vote for anybody. What they have is false hope. Trump is their false hope, just like Biden and now Kamala Harris is the liberals' false hope, right? It's not real. It's false hope, right? And false hope is false hope, right? It's something that, it's an illusion, and they're not willing to face up to reality. That's what this is. The reality of what Trump is. And the reality of they're putting too much energy and hope on somebody who's not going to deliver. So anyways, that's what this video is about. You could see that when I go through his inconsistency in his story and his out-and-out lies and how just stupid and BS it is, right? That, it's fake. It's freaking fake, and the Trumpers just won't get there, which is, typical of them. All right, let's get into it here.
At their first joint rally. This was also Trump's first on-camera interview since he dodged an assassin's bullet.
Boom, he dodged that. He dodged it. He dodged it. He was so quick. He was so fast. Like, no one knew how fast Trump was, even though he's like 300 pounds. He's like so fast. He's like so nimble. Like, he saw the bullet come. He's like, boom, boom. He's like Matrix. He was Neo. He was like Neo on the stage up there.
Here's part one of our exclusive interview. Mr. President, Senator, I don't know what we have to talk about. It's been pretty boring. Why did you pick J.D. Vance?
So this is interesting. This whole thing's interesting. This guy, Jesse Walters, sucks. He's arrogant and annoying. Not funny. He's going full fish boy here. But this tells you everything about what Trump cares about. There's two parts to this. He's going to get into this twice here. In the beginning here and the end.
Had a good chemistry, and
we had a good chemistry. What are you talking about? Chemistry. He's saying that chemistry made his decision. Not a guy who could carry a swing state, not a guy or a person who could bring in a demographic. I mean, that's how you usually would pick a VP. somebody who, I mean, technically it would be somebody that you think would do a good job of being president if you died or couldn't be president. But his his what he's saying is chemistry, right? Like there's always these reasons, and it's always some kind of weird negotiation, and the team tries to put together like a quality pick for something, right? But for Trump, it's chemistry. It's somebody that will kiss his ass, and Trump loves people who love him. That's what this is about, and love in the most superficial way. What Trump considers love, right? Trump has probably never really experienced love in his life because he doesn't. Melania's like not a loving person, right? Melania's in a loving wife. His other two wives weren't. They're like rich. They're like Kardashians, right? He's married Kardashians, women who are attracted to his wealth and power and lifestyle, right? So that's the kind of women he's had. Women who look at his position as a billionaire as something that can move their lives forward. And that's what he considers love, right? Somebody who's going to tell him what he wants to hear, someone who's, going to, yes, Mr. Trump, like this kind of stuff.
Originally, JD was probably not for me, but he didn't know me. And then when we got to know each other, he liked me maybe more than anybody liked me, and he would.
We're going to get into this in a second. This is a big part. He liked me more than anybody liked me.
Stick up for me, and
He
fight
would stick up for me.
for the worker as much as I fight for the worker. We just had an automatic chemistry.
Chemistry, which is mean he would stick up for Trump and talk about how Trump was so great. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene or whoever it is, until Trump turns on the person, right? Until the person, says something that Trump doesn't like.
And I actually endorsed him in Ohio for the Senate, and he ended up winning against a very tough field. And he wrote a book which was a classic, as you know. And
He wrote a classic book.
all about the working men and women and how they aren't being treated fairly, and he was right about that, and I understood that maybe better than anyone else. And
My wife and I were listening to this together in the car, and she was like, "Oh my God, it's a comedy, right? Like this, he's just the narcissism. This is Trump bragging like a saint and a hero doesn't do this kind of stuff. Doesn't talk about how he knows things better and he's better and better and I'm the best and we got the best numbers, we got the best people, and this is key right here, right?
we just have had a great relationship. And he had serious competition. We had tremendous people, all of them, every one of them.
You
But
beat
in the
out a
end,
lot of very important
talented.
people.
Very impressive people.
When you got the call and found out, what did your wife say?
Well, he asked to speak to my wife, actually, which I was very appreciative of. And
Yeah, and I said, "Don't, no, you're not, because you're a scum." Don't. He very much is kind of like he looks like he's a very effeminate features, like female to male kind of stuff. So let's get into the ear thing here.
How's your ear?
Good. Getting much better. We're getting down to the small bandages.
So here's a small bandage, right, which is all that was necessary all along. Because when you see the pictures, you see that they never needed the big bandage that they put on when we went to the convention. There's, the damage is, and there's no damage, but, they're saying the damage is just right here. And you can see it from let me go back to the earlier pictures here. So this is a big picture, right? This is the money shot the stage shot with the flag. Trump's fist in the air. This is the big shot. But again, no blood anywhere. There's no blood here. No blood on anything to do with anything. No blood here on his hand. We're going to look at this later. So then there's no blood on his shirt. And Trump's going to talk about he was gushing blood. But going back to this original picture here, we can see that Trump, by the time he started to walk off the stage, the blood had stopped, which is, it's fake because he wasn't bleeding when he was shot, right? We know he wasn't bleeding when he was shot. There was no blood on his hands, and he said that there's blood on his hands. He's going to double down on that BS thing. But this is not that bad of a wound. There's no big chunk of his ear missing. There's no gushing blood. If he needed a stitch, how many stitches? Like, be honest. Tell me stitches. 1, 2, 3 stitches, maybe no stitches, maybe just a Band-Aid. Like, I got a cut on my hand the other day, like multiple fingers doing farm work. And I was going to continue working, but it was like gushing blood, like not gushing blood, like not so I need a stitch, but blood was coming out. And so I had to go in, couldn't find a Band-Aid. I took a paper towel and some tape and wrapped it around the cut. And so I'll take a picture of my hand, with the cuts. Small cuts on my fingers. That was, just things that happen when you're doing farm work, right? And so there was one finger that was bleeding, and I washed it out. I went to dirt to get in there, and Band-Aid would have been there for the period of time it took for it to stop bleeding. And I would take the Band-Aid off, and there'd be no more Band-Aids, right? Because the Band-Aid was there to make it stop bleeding and make sure that the dirt didn't get in the cut, right? And I continued to do farm work for, whatever amount of days. Probably about the same amount of blood that's there with Trump. Actually more, because it was bleeding until I stopped it from bleeding. Whatever they call that process where the blood congeals and it stops bleeding, right? Like you get your body wants you to stop losing blood, and there's a process in it. And that had already happened here. Okay, I'm editing, and it turns out Trump didn't need stitches. You'll hear about that later, right? I'm in the editing process, but I went and took this picture. So you see that the biggest part of the cut, you maybe can't see, is on my middle finger there. And then it cut my ring finger and a little bit on my pinky. My hand slid across some, like a piece of metal when I was working at like an irrigation system on the farm. And it hurt a little bit, but not much. And I was continuing working, and I looked down, there's blood everywhere. And it's on my, it's running down my wrist. It's just everywhere, right? And, I don't bleed a lot. Like, I'm not somebody who gets caught and bleeds. That's why I was continuing to work. And it was hot outside and getting hotter, and I wanted to get the work done, to take time out to fix the, on a cut that doesn't really hurt. And I had to, walk up back to the house and all these things. And like I said, I wrapped in a paper towel and put some pressure on it, and then went back to work. And so this is at most 5 days ago. And the cuts are mostly healed. They opened again, too, because I was working, and it got hurt a couple more times. Like you just, if you have cuts on your hand and you're doing outdoor farm work, they're going to, unless you're wearing gloves or, put Band-Aids on them or whatever. My wife had just read that there was some forever chemicals in Band-Aids. That was the other thing. So we're trying to figure out what we're going to do instead of using Band-Aids, or find out, Band-Aids that don't have forever chemicals that, stay in your body forever, right? So there's all that, right? So so that was all going on. But my cut bled more than Trump's. There's no question about it. There was blood everywhere. And it continued to bleed for, it would have been bleeding for a long time till I put some pressure on it. Like I had to deal with it. And so it bled for like 5 minutes before I was able to address the cut. And then I put something on it. First I put pressure on it, and it stopped for a little bit, then it started to bleed again. The one finger, the other ones weren't really bleeding as much, or they stopped bleeding. And so my cut was technically bleeding more and worse than Trump, right? There's no question about it, because when we look at Trump's wound and what happened afterwards, he stopped bleeding almost immediately. So how small was his cut, right? Like I was, Trump was saying that when you cut your ear, it bleeds a lot more, and there's blood vessels. I cut myself like right below the fingernail. And, it's not a place that actually, I have cuts like this all the time. They don't bleed that much, right? And so this one was a kind of a bleeder. And Trump's cut was, he got hit by an alleged bullet. Like my thing was a minor thing. And he was supposed to get hit by a bullet, and my cut's worse, right? And like he's been wearing bandages now for over a week. You can see from the picture that the cut is mostly healed. It's much smaller than it was before, and the cuts are mostly healed, right? And that's with them getting aggravated, and it's not like I've taken care of the thing, right? It's just, they're still getting better. So let's say Trump was actually hit by a bullet, like grazed his ear, grazed him. I mean, you can't see like where it even hit him? Where's the blood coming from? Where's the chunk of ear that's missing, right? It isn't like it took off half his ear and he needed plastic surgery. And so by the time he got up and was walking around, there's no blood. Like the blood part is stopped, right? He stopped bleeding. There's blood here on his face, nowhere else. And again, this is ketchup on his face, Ketchupgate, and nowhere else, right? He's out there pumping his fist. There's blood here. Some blood was here and here, but the process is stopped. He's not bleeding anymore. He's getting into the car to go to the hospital, and he's not even really bleeding, right? So this is a minor cut. Like, no reason for him to go to the hospital. A doctor there could say, yeah, it's just a minor cut. You don't even need stitches. It stopped bleeding. We could clean it out, whatever it is, right? A hospital visit's completely unnecessary. Like, you go to a hospital when you need stitches, or even that, some walk-in clinic, because, they're going to put a few stitches in there. But Trump, he's going to go full out. There's the thing on the ground, right? Like, this is where, like, someone got this shot, and it must have been like a shill camera, like a photographer, because they would have been seeing them squirting something on his ear, right? And so, here, like, this is the big, let's go back to that one. There's a big money shot there. We have to go through these. There's a propping him up the stage, him doing things. There's his hands and all this stuff. There's a fight. And then that one. And this one here. Okay, so there's no discernible big chunk of his ear missing. So let's say that he hit him right here. Let's say the bullet. This is the part of the ear that's protruding out. So this is the official story. The bullet grazes his ear, and by the time he's up, there's no blood gushing out. It's over. There's no blood dripping. There's nothing. There's nothing. Like this blood is running down his ear here, and it ran down his face, and then it stopped. It would be here. If it was still dripping, he'd have some on his collar. He'd have some on his shirt, right? It doesn't exist. And so it's a minor cut, right? It's a minor frickin' cut. It's like almost a non-existent cut on his ear, right? Now, if it was significant, they would show you photos of, like, again, there's no chunk of ear missing here. Like, you can't even see, like, a bullet hit him, right? Maybe up there towards, you can't even tell. They knew this would be a minor cut if it, there's no cut here, but any doctor, any mom, it's a little boo-boo you got there. We'll get into the whole thing. You got a little boo-boo, right? And there's no trip to the hospital. Like, just because what? There's no real blood. Stop bleeding. There's all these things. But they would release pictures, like now, because there's nothing there, right? And they're just going to pretend it didn't happen. When people look at his ear and they say, hey, it doesn't, where did the bullet hit you? And there's like no scar. There's no evidence of that, right? And they'll just pretend it didn't happen. Like, Trump will continue talking about this big assassination attempt, but like there's no evidence. Like, there's nothing there. It's just there's no. I had a worse cut that was non-existent. I didn't even consider it a thing, right? So he never needed this. Why does he have a bandage? We know that there's a small cut up here. This is what he needed. Like, this is what they needed at the convention. He comes out and does a big speech, and then his where he said, I took a bullet for democracy.
They keep saying, he's a threat to democracy. I'm saying, what the hell did I do for democracy? Last week, I took a bullet for democracy.
You didn't take a bullet. You were grazed. The best, the most realistic story here. Let's say this story is true, which again, it's not. Like, let's say it's true, but come on. The truth of the story is he was grazed by a bullet. It barely hit his ear. Like, that's as much as you could say. Like saying he took a bullet. It's like something hit your ear. Like, a bullet cut isn't somehow worse than, we'll talk about that with J.D. Vance. He's going to say something stupid, right? But, like, it's just a small cut. And you need a Band-Aid for a day. Like, he didn't need to wait to have a Band-Aid to go to the convention. He didn't need this big Band-Aid. So many days later. If you have stitches, sure. If you're going to wash dishes, you want to get some bacteria in it, you might put on a rubber glove. Or if you're going to go outside and do farm work or do, yard work or something, or work on a car, or, something with grease on it, you don't want to get anything in your cut. Sure, you put a Band-Aid on, right? But he's out there giving a speech, and this is performance. It's performance because of this, right? All these clowns wearing these things. It's this whole thing that's happening. So it's just a complete performance. You guys can all agree with that. I mean, it's evidence. It's overwhelming. If you're a Trumper, this is performative. He didn't need this Band-Aid. He didn't need this Band-Aid because he had a small cut here, like a small, tiny cut that stopped bleeding by the time he got to the car. He didn't need a hospital visit. Doctor could have cleaned it out. Doctor could do stitches. Like Trump has doctors around him, a team of doctors. They had access to. They didn't need to go to the hospital to get him stitches. I showed that video of Trump coming to the hospital and people saying, "Thank Jesus, praise Jesus," right? In my last video. And so you didn't need Jesus, right? And you didn't need you didn't need a hospital. You just needed, maybe a small bandage here. But if it's already stopped bleeding, maybe not even that, right? Maybe if you're going to sleep on, he could have probably, he could have slept, taken a nap on that side of the ear, maybe hurt a little bit, right? But it's a minor cut. It's a minor cut at best. And so there didn't need to be any of this stuff. There didn't need to be any of this drama with the big-ass bandage. And a week later, he doesn't even need this, right? You start healing in a day or two. I mean, the stitches would have come out, and I don't even think they needed to put stitches because they didn't. It was just, let's say they cut his ear on purpose. Let's say that when he was on the ground, they cut his ear, like a wrestling, to make it look like, and that was real blood, and that was a real cut, and there was whatever. Let's say there was, it was a real thing. It would be healed by now. Like just to, whatever it was. And even if they did that, it would be healed. When you see it, you're going to be like, oh, that's nothing, right? I mean, that's nothing. It's not a big deal, right? It's, a small, non-existent cut that would have been healed already. I've said this before. Whenever they do something that's fake, whenever they fake something, it doesn't last, right? It doesn't hold up.
But it was a nasty one, and it was a nasty period. That was exactly 1 week ago from today, exactly.
Yeah, so no Band-Aid, right? You can't heal within a week with that kind of minor blood loss and no existing wound.
And, when you think about it, that's been a lot of territory covered. Who would have thought this was going to be happening? But
you did when you planned it, right?
Happened, and I got very lucky. Or God. I think it was God, actually.
God. I got very lucky, or God. I got very lucky, or God? Like, I thought it was God. Like, he was claiming divinity there for a while. Providence, divine providence. That God somehow, made him miss his whole head and just get his ear.
Who said it was not God? Ron Johnson, senator from Wisconsin, said he gave you that chart of illegal immigration.
Well, he's right about that. He actually gave me the chart. If I didn't have that chart, I wouldn't have looked to the right. If I didn't look to the right, a very bad thing would have happened. I wouldn't have been at the convention. I can just about guarantee it.
That's right.
Now,
Where were you when Butler happened?
It's Butler, the big thing in Butler. Again, this story isn't going to last if it's false, and it's already fading. There's no wound on his ear. They're now focusing on Kamala. This thing seems to have faded fast, right? It was a brief thing, a convention stunt.
Playing mini golf with my kids, hoping that he would call me and offer me the vice presidential slot. And
so you went out to play mini golf with your kids, waiting for him to call you and say, "We want you to be VP."
What happened, and I told my kids, I said, we got to get out of here, the president's been shot. And of course, we didn't know if the president was okay or not at that point. And my son said, Daddy, is it the president who's your friend or the president you don't like? And I said, it's the president who's my friend. And he said, okay, I'm sorry about that. And it was a very sweet moment. And
my son said, hey, is it the president you like or the president you hate? Oh, it's the president I like. Oh, good, because fuck that other guy. And so this brings me to the second little voiceover part I want to do here. And this gets worse. Like, this is just the beginning of this debacle. Both sides are saying, not think. We don't know what they think. But what they're saying is the other side is evil, right? So the mainstream Democrats and the mainstream Republicans, not just the fringe people, think that the other side is completely evil. There was some of this when I grew up. Like, there's always been some of this. In a binary system, us against them, good guys and bad guys, right? There is always some of this, but it's way worse, much more intense, where they're just saying the other side's evil. This is, where we're at as a country. When you're at that point, right, where you're saying, you know, the other side's evil. When you're in a divorce like situation, and you start talking to your kids about the other person, and if the other person is just a nightmare, like I was in a situation like this, right? And not that I'm great, like that's the other part. Like so, but your kids, the way the genetics work, I mean, I don't know how, like what percentage, which person, whatever it is, right? But the kid is both parents, right? It's a combination of both parents. And so, my ex and the ex's family had mental issues, like had a lot, and not that mine didn't, but like this was on a whole different level. And when that's my kids are made up of that. They have that in them, right? And so there's no good way when something's a situation where somebody really is like, I don't want to say evil, but gone to the dark side or completely, just a bad person, right? Where you psychologically messed up, right? It's just, there's nothing good when that happens. But, in a binary system, no matter how bad the other person is, you married them. Like you chose to do that, or that was part of your soul's plan, or whatever you want to say. Like, I would say it was my soul's plan. So it wasn't an accident, like I wasn't a victim. And so you have half of that, right? Like you marry an abusive person, okay, that was a mistake. But why would you marry a second abusive person, right? Like how many times does that happen where a person has multiple, multiple people that are the same, right? Multiple spouses that are, you have the same complaints about your first spouse are there with the second spouse, and that's you. Like that's not their spouses, that's you, and maybe you're even pulling that out of them. Maybe you're making that happen. My wife and I watch this show, Farmer Wants a Wife. There's these various seasons. Every once in a while we watch. There's multiple seasons of the Australian version, which seems more realistic. We laugh and joke about it's a light thing we do. It's not a like we believe it kind of. We have some stake in the outcome. We take what we call TV naps, and we have conversations and make jokes, and like one of the things I always say, and I've said this in a recent video, is the farmer says to one of the girls, "You're my favorite. Don't tell the others." And it's like a running joke me and my wife say, like about other things, right? Like we'll say it about news events and other things. Like it's a kind of a running joke we have. But this we're watching season 10 right now. And there's a guy who has a vineyard, and he looks like Hunter Biden. He seems to be a real scumbag. And there's a woman, he's older, and there's a woman in her 30s who, she looks like, getting close to where she can't have kids. And she sets people up like she's a matchmaker. And she asks the guy if he wants to have kids, and he says yes. And then later on, she sees some signs that the guy doesn't want to have kids, right? That he's lying to her, and she just goes off on him. And she talks about it multiple times, when they do the camera. And I believe it to be, these things are staged, but it seemed like a real thing. But even if it wasn't, it, illustrates a point. And she isn't the only one. There's other women who do this. But her last relationship was a guy who said he wanted to have kids, and then they dated for like 8 years, like 6, 5, some more than 4, whatever it was. And he dumped her, and so he never really wanted to marry her, never wanted to have kids, kind of played her. And she's still bitter about it. There's a couple of these people, and the guys themselves, that are still reliving their last relationship. They're still reliving a previous relationship, right? They're, which is they go into this new relationship with suspicion about the new guy or the new woman doing the same thing, right? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you wreck a new relationship because of trust issues that were created in your last relationship. Because, I've talked about samskaras, that you have these samskaras of things that you've done in the past, like being an addict or an alcoholic is a good one, that you bring into this life, things that you created in a past life that you bring into this life. Samskaras, and the knowledge of samskaras is one of the greatest gifts that I've gotten in my lifetime. In this life, right? I first heard the theory and it made sense. And then I watched it play out, not just with myself, but with other people. And I can see that somebody has a samskara for something, and until they clean that thing out and they figure it out, it's not going away. And there's nothing you can say to that person to help them. There's nothing you can do until they see it for themselves, until you see it for yourself. You're always going to have that situation. And so you're going to have people, you're going to be attracted to people that you can't trust, right? Until you clean out what you need to clean out. Like if you have a bad relationship, you have to take responsibility of what attracted you to that person, what made that, why did your soul choose that? Why was that part of your, why did your ego choose that? And you can't go into the new relationship. I mean, everyone's going to do this a little bit with this idea that this new person is just like the old person. Because if it is, it's because of you. It's because you're picking them, right? That you're creating this, you're manifesting this type of person. And so without that, without the knowledge that you have to change, and this is, people compared me to, I read a comment where somebody said I was narcissistic and made fun of people like Trump. And I gave some examples of why you should be able to see there's a difference. Not that I have to defend myself, but you should be able to see the difference between me and Trump. And the biggest one, which I left out when I realized the next day, is that I'm saying you have to change, that I have to change and you have to change. We all have to change. I'm one of the few people saying that because no one wants to hear that shit. You don't come to YouTube to hear someone say that you have to change. But this is something we've all created together. And the debt-based economic system is a big part of it. But we've all manifested this together, right? And, everyone wants to hear about how there's a bunch of bad people that are over on the other side, and you're the good people. I mean, this is a big part of the Christian religion has completely fucked us in our system because Christianity says that they're the only good guys. The only way to get to heaven is through Christianity and through Jesus. And if you're not doing that, you're going to hell, and therefore you either need to be saved, or you, depending on how you're going to look at it, or you're evil. Everyone who's not a Christian is evil. So that's part of this whole thing with Trump and the whole, all of it. It's really warped our system because we have a religion that says there's no other way to get to God, and the only godly people are in our religion, and everybody else is basically worshiping the devil and was on a path to hell. And it's a lie. It's not true. Jesus was, I've talked about this. Jesus was a saint, but he still had more stuff to go. And you can see from just his stories. Some of the things that they attribute to Jesus, like miracles, are something that can be, manifesting and manipulating reality is something that can happen in a very low level of spiritual development. Like Jesus was on, the second rung, say, of spirituality, which is still a lot better than most people, but he had a lot more to go. But that's not, they're not even embracing the second rung. The religion itself has manipulated his teachings to be a power-hungry organization, right? I mean, Christianity at its best, if you're a really good Christian, you would be moving from the first rung to the second rung like Jesus did. And the second rung is quite substantial. Most people don't even get a whiff of it, right? They're not even trying to be, move in a spiritual direction, get closer to God and evolve. But, it's still on a very, low level. And they make it sound like it's some kind of, that's, and not only that, you don't have to, not only did he reach some pinnacle, but now he can die for your sins and do it for you, which is not true, right? And so this good versus evil type mentality is always the end of something. When you get to the point where the other side is evil and you're good, and, when you're a good person, you're a hero. You don't do shit like fake an ear shot, or even, maximize it. Let's say that really happened, which it didn't. But let's say it really happened. You don't maximize it. You don't put a giant maxi pad on your ear and, milk it and look for, ways to use it as a political weapon. And the same thing with Joe Biden. We'll get to that tomorrow when I cover this. Joe Biden gives this speech and all these things. You don't have a guy who has Alzheimer's, who has Parkinson's, and has cognitive function difficulties, and force him on the American people and manipulate the system to make him president, right? And both sides are doing that. Both sides are engaged in evil. Trump has been really divisive and talking about people in a demonic way and lying to his followers and pretending to believe in stuff he doesn't give a shit about because he's a flim-flam man. Like, they're both doing evil stuff. And for it to be good versus evil, you have to embrace good. You can't take this sort of us against them type mentality. Even people, all of us here in the truth community, we have to change. Like, yeah, okay, they suck. Yeah, I point out how people suck all the time. But I'm well aware that I suck too. Like, you just, I mean, it's just there. Like, I know when you meditate, you're aware of your own thoughts and your own, how you could do better, how you could serve God more, how you could be, more contributing to society. We're all selfish. We're all entitled. That's the system. That's what this system does, right? And so at the very least, should be saying, all right, let's not, pass this system on to our kids. I mean, it's nothing that we have to do because it's going to implode on its own. It should have imploded already. Like, they're keeping it going. But the system runs on evil because it's a system that's, not a godly or divine system. But there's no good versus evil. There is a bad system and the rest of us, right? There's all of us, like every saint that comes down here. Look at what happened to Jesus and look at what happened to his disciples. It's a little bit better in India where they celebrate their saints, but they also celebrate flim-flam men and fake gurus there, right? So there's that. Like, that's happening to the Saj Marg meditation I've done for 30 years. It's become this heartfulness cult. It just, this clown Dodgy and his people, like they're doing to the system what, was done to these previous religions, hijacking it and turning it into something for personal gain and profit. We have a human problem. We're operating on a vibrational level, on a consciousness level that is, like, not good. It's low. And so we have to raise ourselves out of that, each person individually and collectively. And that's the problem. And anybody being a leader would be saying this. And I'm not saying I'm a leader because I'm not. But anybody who's being a truther, being someone's telling you the truth, would say, yeah, you have to change and I have to change. We all have to change drastically. Like, the way we are now is completely effed up, and it's not. We're all going in the opposite direction that we should be, and our system is a reflection of that. The system has to go, and we have to redeem ourselves, and figure out what life's about, and embrace our divinity, and rise to a much higher level. We all have to become like saints, not like saints. We all have to become saints, because that's possible. We all have to become spiritual people because other people have done it. We all have to do it. Like, we all have to do it. And it's not, we're waiting for other people to change or blaming everybody else isn't a part of it, right? And that's what anybody who was really a good person would be saying, or a truthful person, whatever. Not necessarily a good person, but an honest person. But if these people were leaders, they'd be saying that. No, you have to change. But they're just pandering to people, so no, you can make America great again, or you can, have all these things. You can have your abortions, and you can have your, liberal stuff and whatever, and it's fine. You don't need God anymore. Science will take care of you, whatever. Whatever these two opposite groups are saying to their people, because the people don't want to hear the very truth is that you have to change. All right, let's get back into it here. Okay, so Trump made his first public appearance since, in terms of a, public appearance since the alleged, the convention and the shooting, the Ketchupgate that's now BandAidgate as well, right? So,
driving force behind every single Biden catastrophe. She is a radical left lunatic who will destroy our country. If she ever gets the chance to get into office, we're not going to let that happen.
So this is what they're both saying. Both sides are saying the other side's going to destroy the country. But we already had experience of both the Biden and Trump presidency. And you might not like some of the things that have come out of it. But both of them have had a negative effect. I wouldn't say it's the presidents themselves. It's the people who control the system. If you're a truther, you know that there's people who control the system. That these guys are just puppets. And they're going to destroy America if they want to destroy America. Well, let's put it this way. America is going to have to fall if they want it to fall. Because they can't sustain our lifestyle. They can't sustain the American economy and all these things. It's unsustainable. So they're going to take away your lifestyle because they can't sustain it. We can't sustain it, right? Well, everything that you enjoy as Americans is not something that's natural and backed by the divine system. And it comes out of an evil, debt-based economic system. That it's Ponzi scheme. And we all know about what happens with that. And so this idea, this is what I was talking about. We'll get back to the interview. But this is his first appearance, and Trump is saying these types of things. The other side is evil. If they win, the country is destroyed. Like, both sides are saying that.
You know, I was supposed to be nice. They say something happened to me when I got shot. I became nice.
Again, nothing happened to him. He hasn't changed at all. A bullet passed through his ear, and he has not changed at all. They tried to roll a new non-divisive Trump out, a divine, divine intervention Trump out at the convention, right? And he had a few different things that he said in the beginning, but he hasn't changed at all. This event hasn't changed him. You can see there's no change in him. You're like, oh, he's so much different now. No, that's not. No one's saying that, right?
And when you're dealing with these people, they're very dangerous people. When you're dealing with them, you can't be too nice. You really can't be. So if you don't mind, I'm not going to be nice. Is that okay? You want me to be?
So listen to this. This is what they're saying. Like, this is what he's, the other side's evil, and, like, if you're nice to them, they'll take over the country. So this is their point of view, the Trumpers, right? So let's get back to this is what I'm saying. He's not being honest. You have to change. These people all have to change. Every one of them needs to change. Just like all the Democrats have to change dramatically. You and I have to change drastically, not to save this country, but to make the world into something, make ourselves into something, and our world will reflect this transformation that we've gone through to become our higher, become a higher level, a better version of ourselves. Nobody wants to hear that shit, right? These people don't want to hear it. They want to hear, the other side's evil. Yay! We got to get them. Yay! You want to take over? You want them to take over? No! It's just this stupid stuff, right? This is, the ode to the Trumpers. So let's get back to this here.
The president was okay.
So the ear's better. You have the smaller bandage on. Have you asked to see the wound?
I have not, no.
Yeah, it's funny, right? It's a joke because it doesn't exist. The wound, it's a scratch, like it's non-existent. When you see it, like, it's already done. Like, Trump's back to campaigning like it never happened. He's going to use it in speeches. Bringing God maybe into it at this point, we don't know. Before it was God, now it may be God, whatever it is. He hasn't changed at all. The Democrats, they've changed to Harris, and she's going to do what she's going to do. But this thing is going to fade. It's a story, even though it was this dramatic event. And they bring it back up just like they bring the big event up in January. All these things, all these fake events. We saw it with Pelosi and, all this stuff like that, right? All these things. They don't stick, right? They don't, people don't really believe them. And that's the thing. I'll get into that at the end of this thing.
I won't, though I do find it hysterical, Jesse. You have these people who are like, why is the president wearing an ear bandage? He got shot in the ear. And these are the same people who are wearing masks, right, 5 years after COVID. So it's pretty ridiculous.
Okay, so it's the same exact thing. Why does he have a bandage on? Because he got shot in the ear? His ear didn't blow up. It isn't like some portion of his ear is missing. It isn't like half of his ear is gone. Because that would be a hard sell. He would be deformed. Like, once he got better, it would be just this thing. People are like, I don't want to look at that ear. He got grazed. And whether you're grazed by a bullet or you get a small cut on your, whatever it is, you got a small cut on your ear, you got a splinter or whatever, you got a little blood. It's the same thing, right? The process of healing is the same. But they rolled out this giant tampon they put on his maxi pad, they put on his ear at the convention, which, we've documented. And we've seen, we just saw that. And we saw that what the ear looked like after it was shot. And, it looks like it's just been doused in fake blood. Like, it's almost nicked his ear. Like, let's say you believe in the official story. It nicked his ear at most, right? And so, otherwise, it's just fake blood. It's ketchup, which is, what I believe it. I'm 100% on that, right? But in terms of, whatever you want to believe about it, he didn't need that bandage. Like, is he talking about how many stitches he needed? Where does it say how many stitches he needed, right? Trump doesn't have stitches after the assassination. right? Trump doesn't have stitches after the assassination. Trump ear wound treatment detailed by former White House. Here it says here, right? Trump campaign provides new details on ear wound and treatment. Former President Donald Trump is doing well and required no stitches. So this is a cut without stitches, right? Doesn't matter if it's a bullet. It doesn't matter if it's anything. So we had a cut without stitches. No stitches. After a gunshot at the campaign rally last weekend, grazed his ear. All of a sudden now it's grazed his ear. Memo release Saturday. This is the official. This is Ronnie Jackson. This is Trump's physician. He's the guy who, Trump talked about. He gave him the cognitive test. As former appointed physician to the president, Donald Trump, I was naturally very concerned, as was the entire world, after his well-being after the assassination attempt on his life. As such, I met him in Bedminster, New Jersey, late that evening to personally check on him and offer my assistance in any possible way. I've been with the president since that time, and I've evaluated and treated his wound daily. He was doing well. As reported and witnessed by the entire world, he sustained a gunshot wound on the right ear from a high-powered rifle used by the would-be assassin. The bullet passed coming less than a quarter of an inch from entering his head. Why would you say that as a doctor? You're not talking about what it missed, right? Like a doctor's talking about you getting hurt and saying, well, you could have cut your artery, like whatever. No, it's just, and struck the top of his right ear. The bullet produced a 2 centimeter wide wound. 2 centimeter wide wound. And again, that's exaggeration. 2 centimeters, right? Okay, so my wife and I were talking about this. 2.5 centimeters is an inch. So 2 centimeters is, maybe 3/4 of an inch, right? So it's pretty long, and there's no way his cut's like that. But, a cut has to be deep enough to have stitches. And, it sucks when you have to have stitches. And I'm aware, I will avoid stitches and go to the doctor if I can. And once in a while you have to go. And it's just not going to heal right, all these things. And Trump's ear did not need stitches, so he didn't need to go to the hospital. Remember what this narrative's about. I'm editing now. Of course, I have all the information. When I come back later and edit, you process things and you think about them. And so this was about Trump being a tough guy, right? Mark Zuckerberg and Cenk Uygur and Elon Musk saying how badass it was what Trump did. He's got a wound. He's just been shot in the ear and he's pumping his fist. What a tough guy. But he's not a tough guy. And, I don't care. I don't care if he's a tough guy or not. That means nothing to me. All this stuff, especially when it's performative like this. But what they're trying to do is show he's a tough guy, that he could get hurt and get out there and pump his fists. But we now know that it was just the opposite. Because even if you believe in the official story, let's say you're a Trumper or most of the people believe in the official story. Trump got shot in the ear. It was so insignificant it didn't need stitches. And Trump is claiming how bloody he was and all these things. And it had stopped bleeding. You can see it stopped bleeding. No blood anywhere on his coat. Sure, you'll see all that. I'll show you that again, I think, coming up. I showed you in my last video. There's no blood anywhere. There's a smidge of blood on his hand. It's not blood. It's ketchup, whatever, right? And so he's supposed to be a tough guy. It was so insignificant a cut, they didn't even need stitches. So you don't even need a Band-Aid, right? The blood has, it stopped bleeding, and it was insignificant amount of blood. And so this is like him being a puss, right? Like you run home to mommy and she's like, oh, it's okay. She slaps a Band-Aid on it just to make you feel better. So you get those forever chemicals and you run outside and you keep on playing, right? This is a non-event. It's a non-injury. This is not an injury, right? And I looked at the North Carolina speech because I couldn't see the Band-Aid and they didn't really have a close-up of him. But when you see I'll go look at the C-SPAN thing, see if I can get a close-up. But I blew up the picture, and I think that he has the same Band-Aid on in North Carolina as he had with this guy, Jesse Walters. So that's over 10 days or 10 days after, 11 days, I think, 11 days or 10 or 11 days afterwards. It was on Wednesday, so 10 days. He was shot on Saturday. Sunday, Monday, it was 11 days. My math. I'm getting all Joe dementia Biden. So it was 11 days, almost 2 weeks, and he's still wearing a Band-Aid on a cut that should have already healed by now, right? This guy's saying 2 centimeters, which is, not that huge of a cut, but that's an exaggeration. We know it is because we can see the pictures. And he's making it sound like it's worse than it is, his doctor, but it still doesn't sound that bad because without stitches, even if it had 1 or 2 stitches, it's nothing, right? When you get 1 or 2 stitches, do you post that on Facebook? Like, you guys would never even know I had a cut. I had a cut that was bleeding. And, and other than this Trump thing, comparing it, things like this happen to me every day. I don't even tell my wife and things like that, right? Sometimes I come in, she goes, "Oh, there's blood on your leg," or whatever it is. I go, "Yeah, it's I've been working, this thing happened. No big deal." Because it's not a big deal. This was a nothing. It's not even a story. But he's wearing a Band-Aid for how many days? So you got to say at least that part's fake, right? Like at least that part's being exaggerated. And when he takes off the bandage, there's going to be nothing there for him to see because it's not like a chunk of his ear's missing. And so this was nothing. It was not an event. Whatever happened to him, the blood was a joke. And the blood was everything. Without the blood, the pumping of the fists, he doesn't look like a badass. And he shouldn't look like a badass now because he really didn't even get a cut, right? Like this is a non-significant cut. And again, if you push it farther, of course, then the whole thing seems fake. I mean, it already did to the rest of us. But if you're a Trumper and you believe it and you're never going to believe that he'd fake it, fine. But he at least is exaggerating these bandages, and these are being put on just for show, right? This is just for show. Okay, so I got this off of C-SPAN. This is in North Carolina. And there's the little bandage right there. So he's still wearing this thing. It's 11 days after this alleged event. It stopped bleeding the first day. No stitches, right? If you had stitches, the stitches would have dissolved and been out. You would even be talking to me. You forgot you even got this little cut, right? But he didn't even have stitches. So it was healed within a day or two. God knows what kind of ointments they have. I mean, they have stuff out there that will accelerate healing or whatever it is. But 11 days after, there's nothing there. There's no reason to have there's absolutely nothing here. There is nothing here. And he's got this stupid bandage on, right? And, classic Trump. But, I mean, there's nothing. Like, it's ridiculous. It's just performative. The thing the blood was dry when he was walking off the stage, like, within minutes. The fake blood was dry. The ketchup was dry, right? Ketchupgate. And they, 2 days later, they slap a giant tampon on, maxi pad on his ear for the convention. And then the week later, they take that off and put this on. And then what are they going to put next in there, right? Is there going to be something else, like a little Scooby-Doo Band-Aid? Like, what's next for this little... I mean, this was him being a tough guy, right? And he's talking about the shooting and Secret Service. He's going to be talking about this at every event. And so how long are they going to keep a Band-Aid on him? Because he doesn't need one. Why does he need a Band-Aid? It's clearly not an open wound. It's clearly healed, right? And so, like, this is him being a puss and being performative. And so this is an absolute joke. Like, the whole thing's a joke. A wound that extended down to the cartilage surface of the ear. There was initially significant bleeding, which is a lie. We know that didn't happen. Followed by marked swelling of the entire upper ear. The swelling has since resolved, and the wound is beginning to granulate and heal properly. Based on highly vascular nature of the ear, there is still intermittent bleeding requiring a dressing to be placed. There is no bleeding. Given the broad and blunt nature of the wound itself, no sutures were required. So there's no sutures. They didn't have to put any stitches in, right? And so it's a joke. Like, there's nothing there, right? We saw it in the pictures. Like, they put this big-ass thing on. There's no bleeding, right? It would have been good if there was bleeding, these clowns. They're just, him down there. There's nothing there. It's like they're saying a 2 centimeter wound right here that's so small it doesn't need stitches. And when you don't need stitches, you don't need a bandage on it. There's no reason for a bandage, right? And this is on July 20th. He's saying there's intermittent bleeding on July 20th, and today's the 25th. This is July 20th when he gave the interview. And so, there's nothing there. There should be no bandage like this recent event that he was at. There should be no bandage.
They keep saying, he's a threat to democracy. I'm saying, what the hell did I do for democracy? Last week, I took a bullet for democracy. What did I do against democracy? Crazy.
So you see how pathetic this is. Like, it's just really bad. And that's even if you believe in the real story. Like, if you don't believe in the real story, it's, of course, even worse. You don't believe in the official story. But if you believe in the official story from Trump's own doctor, he had a small cut, no sutures, right, all blah, 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 all the things I've said. And he's still wearing a Band-Aid, still talking about this thing, right? Like it's like the Jaws thing. When they're in the back of the boat in Jaws, they're in the boat in Jaws, and they're talking about their different scrapes and scars, the captain and Richard Dreyfuss character. And they're showing off all their scars that they got related to sharks. And the sheriff looks down at something he had, like a little belly wound, decides not to share. It's like Trump says, well, this is my thing of my year. And they're like, what thing? Well, it was an assassination attempt. I was shot. They go, you were shot? You took a bullet? They're like, well, where's the scar? Well, no stitches needed. Kind of like a graze. Well, it kind of like didn't happen at all, and they threw some ketchup on it. It's just silly, right? He's still wearing bandages, and there's no reason for that. There's zero reason for a bandage, right? It's only to be performative, to remind everybody he got shot. And at some point, he's going to have to take the bandage off, and they're going to take pictures of his ear, and they'll say shit like, well, where's the cut? Where's the scar? And maybe they'll do some makeup or prosthetics or do something to make it look worse than it is. Whatever. But there's nothing there. We saw it in the pictures. And everything else is performative. And it's a lie. And if you're a Trumper, come on, right? It's silly. Ketchupgate is now BandAidgate. Ketchupgate, BandAidgate, it's all the same. Like, it keeps on getting there are more gates involved in this.
We were down by the podium. We heard a lot of kerfuffle. You said something about shoes.
Yeah.
What was that?
Well, they wanted to put me on a stretcher. They had a stretcher, and they wanted to put me on a stretcher. And I said, I'm not going on a stretcher, because I just felt it was the ear. And there was a lot of blood coming. I don't know if you've heard this, but the ear causes, they say, the most in the body. You get hit in the ear. Better than just about any.
Okay, so there was no stretcher involved, right? This story is wholly made up now. Like, we saw it. Like, this is the part that's so effed up, is that we saw what happened. We can see the video, and he's got a completely different story, like we weren't there, and there was no video evidence. And so he said that, let me put on my shoes before he started to walk. Somehow he fell out of his shoes. He went down to the ground, his shoes came off, right?
Any other place in one way, but in another way it bleeds more. And there was a lot of blood, but I understood. They thought I was hit elsewhere. They thought I was hit actually in this area. And I wasn't. I said, I'm telling you, I'm okay. I'm fine.
Well, there's no blood in your midsection. And
get up. I want to get up. I'm not going to be taken out on a stretcher. We had a little argument. Well,
nobody's like, there's audio there, and nobody said anything about that. Like, there was, it only was a few seconds. Here, let's watch the video. Okay, so it's at 6 seconds he's on the ground, right? He's on the ground. Here comes Secret Service. They all swarm in. They're on top of him. And there's no audio of this part right here. But we assume that there's some squirting of ketchup right now. There's squirting ketchup on his ear. There's like, this thing. Look, this guy looking around. Who is it? He's going to talk about this guy right here. Where's it? Where's the guy? This guy right here, Trump is going to talk about. Where's it? He's not even down on the ground. Where's the shots coming from? Shots are done. There's nobody there. They get up, and Trump says,
ready? Move! Up! Move! Go! Up! Hawkeye's here. Hawkeye's here. Move it to the stair. Stair, get ready. Stair, get ready. We ready?
okay, so I didn't know what this is first, but they're saying, move, get up, move. Because, they're saying that to Trump. And Trump's saying they wanted to put him on a stretcher, but they're saying get up and move. We don't see a stretcher anywhere. Why would they have a stretcher? They're saying get up and move. And he's like, I got to put on my shoes. That's what he's going to say in a second. So even then he's lying.
Ready? Move! Up! Move! Go! Up! Hawkeye's here. Hawkeye's here. Move it to the stair. Stair, get ready. Stair, get ready. We ready? Shooters down. Shooters down. Are we good? Shooters down. Are we good to move? Shooters down. We're good to move. We're clear. We're clear. We're clear.
So there's no stretcher, as far as you can tell. Nobody brought a stretcher out.
Let me get my shoes. Let me get my shoes.
Let me get my shoes. Let me get my shoes.
Sir, I got you, sir. Let me get my shoes, sir. Hold that in your head. It's bloody. Sir, we gotta move to the bus. Let me get my shoes. Okay, my shoes.
Then again, let me get my shoes. His shoes got messed. Did they take his shoes off?
Watch out.
Then he says, wait, wait, wait. And he puts up his fist. They're trying to move him. Wait, wait, wait. And he puts up his fist. Wait, wait, wait. And he puts up his fist, right? And so I'm like, oh, we missed the script here, right? That's why I put my fist up.
6 guys lying on top of me. I mean, I had some big guys on top of me.
Yeah, no, it's not the first time. It's the first time he kissed the helmet.
They're strong guys, too. I can tell
They're
you
strong guys. They're big, strong guys on top of him.
that by the wrist. The wrist had a little work on it. And brave guys, because they ran onto that stage very quickly. I was down for the most part because when I looked at my hand, I knew it was something very serious.
Okay, so there's no blood on his hand.
My hand up, I looked at it, it had blood all over it.
Okay, so that's not true. So there's no blood on his hand here. This is his hand. There's a little bit right here. Like that's a little bit where, I mean, whatever that is, and that it's already dried. That isn't wet blood there, right? That isn't blood that's it's already dried blood. And nothing on his hand there, nothing on his hand there. Let me go through these pictures here again on my video. There's nothing there, right? Here's his hand here. There's no blood on his hand. There's no blood here. It's not like his hand's covered in blood. Like if it was gushing blood, it'd be one thing. There was no blood. It was a 2-centimeter cut on his ear that required no stitches. And so, I mean, it's like he was laying down. They squirted something up here. It rolled down his face. It dried almost immediately. As they're walking him off, he's got dry blood on his face, nothing on his collar. If this was bleeding, this would be dripping down. You'd see blood dripping down his ear. This is how gravity works, right? If there's active bleeding, this would all be bleeding. This is a non-event. They're going to show the ear. There's going to be nothing on it. And they're going to be people like, well, yeah, but it still happened. But I mean, in reality, it's a non-event, right? They made a big deal about it. There's not even a stitch in it, right? Curt Schilling was Boston Red Sox pitcher, who they said he had, they had to suture his, like Achilles to his, like his ankle was messed up, so he could pitch, and there was a blood spot, which the announcers and the broadcasting team kept on showing. And, this is when the Red Sox finally won the World Series after being cursed. And he's going to be a hero in Boston forever, having a little blood on his sock. And it looks like, they made jokes about him doing that on purpose so that he would look better. But there's no blood here. That's a lie. So the interaction he had with the Secret Service on the ground, when he got up, stretcher, all that a lie, right? He gets up. He's basically saying he had to force his way up. And then he wanted to get his shoes. And they said, wait a minute. And he raised his hand in the air, right? Like you just don't care. And this was all, what? For this? For a cut that's not even really bleeding? Like, why did it stop bleeding? Why did that stop bleeding? What made it stop bleeding?
But I had a lot of big, strong humans on top of me. And they were very brave humans because they were running into fire. And he kept going.
Look at this smug fuck.
He probably thought he hit, but it hit the ear. And when I saw that, I got down pretty quickly, I think. I also think people were starting to...
No blood. Like, there's no blood. He didn't even look at his hand. It was a weird thing that he did.
out. It's one of the reasons I was able to go down so fast, because it almost is amazing that move of checking here and going almost immediately down. I think so. Probably people were shouting at the same time. Who knows? It was bedlam. And
It was bedlam.
was down, and I said, let's get going. Come on, let's go. And
No, you said, wait, let me raise my fist here and do the performance.
shooting had stopped, so I assumed they probably got him. They did get him.
So you didn't think there would be a second shooter? Like, that's your commander-in-chief presidential skills and reasoning, that there might be a second shooter, which everyone would assume, right? I think they probably got him, but if they didn't, I'm going to raise my hand anyway. I don't care. I lay down on the ground when the bullets were fired, but now I'm going to expose my head and someone's out there trying to kill my ear.
Get him.
So one of the first things that you learn in terms of a live shooter tactical type situation for police and the military is being able to clear rooms or buildings, saying it's clear. You see this all the time in movies and TV shows where, and especially with the military, they'll go into a house and they'll go through every nook and cranny. They pick everything up. They make sure there's like no hidden, somebody hidden under the floorboards or whatever it is. And that there's nothing there. There's no person with a gun behind a door or something like this. They're clearing the house. They're clearing the room. And these guys are taught that, of course, Secret Service. And so, Trump says there's tens of thousands of people there. They would have to get everybody out. They would hold him down on the stage with Secret Service on top of him. They wouldn't assume there's only one shooter. It's ridiculous. And this has been said over and over, even by Joe frickin' Scarborough and shills like that. And so they would get everyone out. They'd clear out the bleachers, make sure there's no one else there, right? Because any of these people in the crowd could be a potential shooter. Instead of walking him back to the car with him jumping up and shaking his fist because they say they got the one shooter, this is not protocol. I can't believe they would make this. This is not the only way to guarantee that what if he got shot in the head while they were walking him to the car while he's pumping his fist, right? Of course, that wouldn't happen because the whole thing was, staged, but what if that happened? Like, you would be, like, even worse off in terms of, if he got shot the first time and he was dead, that would be bad. But if you picked him up before clearing the audience, you got him up on his feet and you walked him back and you allowed him to show his head multiple times and somebody shot him. And so the whole thing is like, it's goofy. It's just like freaking goofy. They would have cleared out the audience and then got him to the car. Like, it'd be one thing if they were like, all right, he's going to bleed to death. But they identify, all right, he's not shot. Like, he's got like a little fake blood in his ear, whatever it is. But I mean, even if it was real blood, it's not the end of the world. And, don't let him get shot again. And so, like, this is the whole thing. It's just, I mean, the Secret Service is a joke now. Keystone Cop stuff, right?
I believe they got him with one shot from an unbelievable shot. Now,
it's unbelievable shot, like unbelievable. You can't. I mean, from 130 years out with a trained sniper team that had the guy locked in their sights the entire time.
Have done it earlier. Maybe doing it early is hard because they haven't. It's hard to shoot somebody when you're not 100% sure. But
when he was doing a rangefinder and was up there with a rifle and he was zeroing in and pointing his gun at the president, you can't be sure until he starts firing and hitting ears and shit.
Got him, and had they not gotten him, it could have been a lot worse situation.
So let's move forward here.
You could have had a lot more than that if he didn't. But so they took him out. So now we're getting up. I said, I'm not lying on the stretch. I'm not going to do that. So I forced my way up, and
he forced his way up. They didn't pull him up. He forced his way up and said, "Hey, let me get my shoes."
Once I was up, I realized, because I looked, everybody was stunned. We had thousands and thousands of people. A good group in the back, but they were great. It was just like a backdrop, and nobody.
Like a green screen.
Stampeded. Nobody ran. Usually when
so this is where he's going to talk about how people love him so much, which seems to be his big thing, right? This fake love, not real love. I mean, like, you can't call this love. But let's look at that again. So, this happens. He gets shot, mosquito bite in his ear, 2 centimeters. They exaggerate. So if it's 2 centimeters, it's really non-existent. He didn't have a cut at all. I mean, half a centimeter, like, what is it? Like, they're exaggerating the whole thing. And so These guys come running in. There's no stretcher. Where's the stretcher? Who brought a stretcher up, right? These guys are all running in. Nobody's bringing in a stretcher. Maybe they said, all right, let's get a stretcher. He said, no, maybe there's a conversation like that. But, everything he's saying is not accurate. This guy's looking around. Look at him look around. Trump's going to talk about this guy. Looking around. Who's it? Where's the shooter? Where is it? That guy. Trump's going to talk about how brave he is, right? So they get him up, right? So he didn't fight his way up. You can see they're pulling him up here. And, whatever 15, 20 seconds that's involved here, it's 42 seconds into the video. So it's a minute-long thing that's happening here while they're getting Trump up. Whatever they're saying there, there's some stuff that you can hear, some so you can't. But, the accuracy of Trump's account of this, he said he saw blood in his hand. He said that he fought his way up. He looks for his shoes. And then he says he gets up and he looks around and everybody's stunned. He's totally disheveled, right? If you're going to say something about the guy, he's disheveled. Like they were, they all landed on top of him. There's a big pig pile there. So he's a little bit rattled and disheveled. They just squirted ketchup on his ear. That's not pleasant. And now he says he's looking around and he's seeing how stunned everybody is. Like he's not aware of anybody else. He's looking for his shoes. They're trying to get him out of here. And then he says, wait. Wait, right here it says, wait.
Watch out.
Wait. Let me do this. Let me do my fist pump. Fight. Look, whoa, what a hero. Wow, oh my God, this guy's he's bleeding profusely from his ear, and he's out there pumping his fist with his 2-centimeter cut.
They hear a shot. If you go to any where people that do this for a living, it's called crowds, and they said when a bullet goes off, everybody starts running for the exits. Nobody ran, including the thousands, tens of thousands of people were in front, and nobody ran. And
okay, so he's going to talk about why nobody ran. And this is always a problem when you start talking about anomalies. People always run when there's a gunshot. There's always stampeding. When people hear a gunshot, they panic and they run. But they didn't run. Trump is going to attribute this to their great love for him and, this whole thing. Whether there was no audible shots that the crowd heard, whether it was a green screen, whatever it was here, like whatever the real thing that happened, people react in a certain way. And when you say people reacted in a different way, then you're saying that this was, this was not a normal situation. When there's gunshots, this is what people do, and they didn't do it, right? And so either you're making that up, people sometimes stay in their seats because this is what happened here, or they've done something different. If they've done something different, then that would be like, well, maybe this wasn't what you're saying it was, right? If people always react in one way, and you're saying this time they react differently, this is Trump's big problem. He's just, he's lost his art of bullshitting. And I guess because the people believe whatever he says. Trumpers believe whatever he says, so he just has learned that he doesn't have to even think about trying to make his lies accurate, right? Okay, so I'm editing and I'm reading through the comments of my last video. If you're not willing to consider that Ketchupgate might be fake, you're not a truther, you're a sheeple. And so this person totally proves my point here. You are giving 1,000,000 reasons for him to be shot. No, I'm not. I'm giving 0. Like I've said over and over again, he's their chief asset. He's their number one guy. They put him in the center of their universe. Why would they shoot him? They love Trump. Like they love to hate him. Like they use him for everything. Everything's Trump's fault. He's the ultimate patsy and, whatever. The mainstream media, the Democrats. You were giving 1,000,000 reasons for him to be shot, and you were just saying that he wasn't shot. If you see a hole in the ear, you are wrong about everything. We will get a picture of his holy ear, spelled Holy, holy ear. It's only a matter of time. Your days to exposure are numbered, pockets. Kaboom! Bring in the friggin' heat. It's just ridiculous that that's what you would think. Like that's your level of understanding here. Because they could put a hole in his ear if they want, but there's no hole. There's no way a bullet's going to put a hole in it, right? And so there's nothing. We saw the blood. There's no blood. The blood had dried up. There was no blood from the, we see it, right? You already know it. Now his doctor says it's a 2 centimeter cut that didn't need stitches. So the whole thing is a joke, right? And he's keeping a Band-Aid on, and they're not releasing any of these things. And, whatever they do to make it look, I don't know what they're going to try to pull, but that'll be fake if they do, or they're just going to let everyone see it and just pretend it didn't, it's no big deal. Like, not even talk about the fact that the ear has no signs of being shot, right? This is how silly the Trumpers are. Okay, so I missed something here.
We're people that do this for a living. It's called crowds. And they said when a bullet goes off, everybody starts running for the exits. Nobody ran, including the thousands, tens of thousands of people were in front.
So tens of thousands of people means at least 20,000 people. So you're saying there's 20,000 people at that rally? Again, like, he just lies and exaggerates. That's what he does, right? Like, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but you're talking about, this being totally fake and questionable, appearing to be totally fake.
Right. Mm-hmm. And nobody ran, and nobody ran in back. The back was like a sample of it. And you had one man, and the man dressed in black. I mean, they were all becoming famous people with a black hat, and he's...
Like, it's totally like he looks like a CA, right? Like, just looks like a total plan. He's directly behind Trump. He's looking around. Where's the shooter? Oh, where is he? As bullets are flying everywhere.
He's looking like this. He's standing up. Where are they? And he starts pointing. This man had no fear, and none of them did. And
none of them had any fear. But you jumped and laid on the ground, but everyone else, people are taking bullets behind you, right? And
women were incredible. Some went down, for a little cover, but nobody ran. And everyone that went down came up.
Yep. They all came up. They didn't stay down. They're not still there laying down waiting for, the angels to come take them away. They actually got back up. Everyone got back up except for the people who didn't. Yeah.
And they thought I was in trouble. They were right, but they thought I was in trouble because they saw the blood immediately. Because
now, only a few people would be able to see the blood, because Trump went down, no blood. The Secret Service was on top of him, and so they might have thought, well, maybe he's shot. The Secret Service is there, but not everyone could see him. There was just confusion, and everyone's in a state of shock when something like that happens. If they could hear gunshots, which we don't know if they did.
As was over here.
And sir, the media always slanders these crowds as, MAGA extremists, and of course they slander the president too. And it really is, I think, a testament to the movement, how calmly people responded to it. That's
exactly, they're so calm because that's what MAGA people are known for being calm and unemotional, being reasonable and rational, intelligent. That's what the MAGAs are known for. Those are what Trump supporters are known for. Their calm demeanor, right?
Definitely the thing I took away most from it.
Yeah, it was amazing, but it was love too. It just
absolutely.
They didn't. It
was love. That's what he's saying. That they love him, and it's fake. Like, that's not real love. If it was real, but they don't really love Trump. They love the lies that he tells them, and that he's not telling them, hey, you guys got to change. Hey, you guys have to come together. You guys got to realize that, you are screwed up as much as the left. We all have to change and get better. Like, no, he doesn't know, if he started saying that, they would leave him. It's only love that because he represents something that they believe in. And he's created himself as a character that the right likes. He's never been a right person. He's elitist, cheats on his wife. He's not a Christian, doesn't go to church, doesn't believe in God. He did all these things. He was pro-abortion. He donated to the Clintons and other people. He donated to Kamala Harris. And so, and that's coming out, right? So he is somebody who is not who they think he is. He's just created himself to be the kind of person that they want. And, he's pandering to them. And he's calling that love. Like, that's what he wants. This guy loved him. This guy defended him. That's what Trump wants. People who, cherish him and look at him as being some kind of godlike figure when he's a, flim-flam man. Like, he's bought into his own bullshit, right?
But when I came up, they saw me come up, and they thought it was over. They thought it was over when I went down because they saw the blood immediately.
Well, you don't know what they were thinking. It's stupid.
And then when I put the hand up, everybody was happy. That was the time. That was when they realized I was okay. And it's just an incredible country. It was a beautiful moment.
It was a beautiful moment, right? There's 2 people that are seriously injured, a guy who's dead. This is the official story. And all, gunshots were fired, a complete failure by the Secret Service. But him getting up and pumping his fist was a beautiful moment. It's all worth it. With this imaginary cut, with the fake blood, and this whole thing, right? It was a beautiful moment. These people just stayed there. It was a beautiful moment.
Joe Biden called you after.
And so, beautiful moment, right? So I think that deep down, and maybe even more consciously, the majority of Trumpers kind of know this thing's kind of fake. At least the ones who watch truther videos, and that's not all of them. Like, there's real right-wing people, real Trumper people that really don't understand the truth community, but there are people who watch truther videos who are Trumpers. And I think most of them, at least on some level, know this thing is as fake as F. But what's even kind of more interesting, which we already know, because Trump said it and we've seen it over and over again, but even if they were convinced, everyone was convinced it was fake. Like, it became a scandal and everyone saw that this was fake and it didn't really happen. Trump was humiliated, right? And irrefutable proof. Some of the people wouldn't believe it even then. But even the ones who did believe it was fake, were totally convinced, would still vote for Trump anyway. Because they would say, well, he's still better than whoever, Kamala, Biden, any of these other people. Same thing with Biden. And there's people out there in full knowledge that Biden was senile, that Biden's had broken down mentally, and they still were saying, well, I'm going to vote for him anyway because, Trump is worse. And that's how bad it is right now. That you could have degraded criminal, scammers, gropers, whatever it is, right? Any number of the worst possible, pedo type of hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, these kind of thing, all these guys. Trump did all these people. And they would say, at least he's better than the other guy. At least it's not a Democrat, right? That's how polarized it's become. And so really it's futile because it's gotten to the point where people are saying, well, you got to fight evil with evil. Our side might be evil, but they're even worse. Then why are you bothering? If it's that bad, what do you think your vote's going to do? What difference does any of it really make? Just there's no real difference. One side might be a little slightly better than the other side. I mean, you can make a case for that in any sphere of activity. But if it's that far down the road, shouldn't you be preparing for the collapse of the system and, worried more about that than the lesser of two evils, right? I mean, the small distinction between the two evils. Because when it's the lesser of two evils, then, what difference does it make? And I'll cover this more with Kamala, but, you can just see how fake it is. Just the way Trump's acting. He hasn't changed at all, isn't a different person. It was, the 2 millimeter thing is, silly, 2 centimeter thing. It's really, there was nothing there. There's no 2 centimeters, right? There was a small, whatever it is, place where they squared the ketchup. Maybe he got an abrasion from the force of the ketchup coming out. And whatever. And Ketchupgate and BandAidgate and all the rest of it. So, it's just embarrassing. He's embarrassing. The Trumpers are embarrassing. America's an embarrassment. And then we have Kamala, which we'll get into because that's just a real shit show. And I just want to say one more thing about change. Years and years ago, I became a preceptor for the Sajmark system, right? And there's people who come here and they're like, well, you joined a cult because they know nothing about it. And they just, it's just easy for people to dismiss something. And of course, this thing with Heartfulness, this guy, Dodgy, kind of turned into a cult, but he's so stupid. It's just an open scam. And he's so stupid, the people around him are so stupid, it's idiotic. And so you really can't call it a functioning cult because they're not really bringing people in. They have the existing people who are going along with everything. But, that's neither here nor there. There's all that, right? But the thing for people like me who experienced it, when I was a preceptor, there was these various preceptor trainings. I had the audio tapes for them, and I had the books. I had a long commute to work, and I used to listen to there was an earlier preceptor training that became a published book called What is Sajmark? And then there was a second version that had all the techniques and all the things that you needed to know. And then there's a third version that was about what kind of person you were supposed to become and what kind of character you were supposed to have. And I eagerly awaited reading these books. I read the second book. I was really into the techniques. This is back when I was really enthusiastic about it. My enthusiasm, the system's wonderful and it's I'm more and more grateful for the system, but my enthusiasm is, just been, I'm beaten out of me because of everything, right? I've talked about in my journey series. But I went to read the third preceptor book, which was about character, like I said. And, it wasn't like, oh, just be kind or, just like the Ten Commandments, things like that. Like just bumper sticker type of things, be nicer to people, stupid stuff like that, right? It was nothing like that. It described the kind of commitment that you had, the capacity that you had to create to serve God. That in every moment of your existence, when your mind is wandering and you're having your own egotistical thoughts, all the indulgent things you do in your life, all those things, in terms of the second master of the system and the third master of the system. The third master of the system talking about the second master, how he was as a person, that every thought he had, every action he took, every bit of energy he spent, he did it with the idea that he was serving God and wasn't any sort of egotistical, wasn't patting himself on the back, oh, look at me, I'm great, or any of these things. Just, God, how can I serve you? Down to the minutest detail. That all these self-indulgent thoughts we have, all the stuff that we do, and, all the things that we waste our time on, all the things that we, pursuit of happiness and pleasure, all those things would be gone in terms of the pinnacle of this system. And I really understood it. Like when I read it, like where I was as a person and, what was expected of me, right? In terms of just committing all your whole life and everything that you do to serving God. There'd be nothing else, right? I mean, you'd be married, you'd have these things, but all of that you would, when you're cooking a meal, oh, I'm serving these people they have divinity within them, so I'm serving God by serving these people and cooking food. Whatever you're doing, you would have that thought. And, I was so far away from even considering something like I was just kind of figuring out this was what the system was about in terms of your personal commitment. And I was like, oh, there's just no way, right? There's just no way I could do this. I mean, I was like, oh, this is a real bummer. Like, I'm like, if I'm going to reach the pinnacle, like there's a top level of something, right? And when you are engaged in, years and years ago when I was wanting to play college basketball. So I didn't play basketball in high school. There's some reasons behind that I don't want to get into. When I was, short, I was a freshman. I was 5 foot tall. I was like 5'9" or 10 when I graduated high school, and I'm now 6'1". And just I filled out like I was really young. The genetic line in my family were younger, and we blossomed later. My brother, he went to Vietnam. He was 5'6". He came out 5'10". These type of things, right? 5'9" or whatever. He grew 3 inches after he was 18. The same thing with me. And so, I was really coming into my own as a basketball player. I had the opportunity to redshirt and things. And my brother was like, there's these camps that my nephew was attending, these 5-star basketball camps where there's these high school kids. I drove down to pick my nephew up. And he said, there's an all-star game, watch the game. And these were kids who later became famous college basketball players. A few of them made it into the pros. And the level these kids were, 15, 16 years old, was playing at was far superior to what I was. I was in my early 20s, right? And I played against good competition and things like this. But, there's levels to stuff, right? And there's the pinnacle, the best person of anything that you do. And in terms of what the Sajmarg best person, the best example of the Sajmarg system, the commitment to God was something that I couldn't even conceive of. Being that way, like I just, And it wasn't performative. Like when Babaji, the second guy, ate food, he would think these particle foods have divinity in them. The particles of the food are, on an atomic and subatomic level, are charged with divinity. And as he took each mouthful of food, he'd think, my system is becoming divine. And I, later on I would adopt some of these things, and I would do them for some period of time, right? But the idea was that everything that he did, he thought he was getting from God and was receiving from God, and it's all internalized. Like it's not something you do to perform for other people. It's got to be real. And he really did this. This is how he lived, right? And the work that he did and the interactions that he had and the visions that he had and the meditative experiences and things all came from this total commitment for every ounce of his energy, everything that he thought and could do. All of his capacity as a human being was devoted to serving God. And, when I saw it, I'm like, there's just no way. Like, I'm not into this like this. And, of course, I've gotten better as I've gotten older, but all the character qualities that go along with it. So I read through the whole book, and, I was like, kind of like dumbfounded. Like, it was like something I was really into and really wanted to do well in. And I'm like, that's way above my pay grade, way more than I could ever conceive of myself doing, right? So when I'm talking about change, people just aren't living good lives. Being a good American is not being a good spiritual person. Like, you can have a job and have a family and celebrate holidays and, not commit any crimes and, treat people with respect and kindness and, maybe donate, volunteer a little bit here and there, go to church and have some kind of, some sort of relationship with God, right? You can do all those things, and that's nothing. Like, that's not, it's just not nearly what a human being can become if they embrace their soul's path and the divinity within them, and they don't get sucked into the matrix and the drama and which we all have, right? And so when I'm talking about change, it's overwhelming if you think about like something like, when I'm talking about this guy Babaji, somebody who is completely devoted to serving God. But in terms of each person embarking on that idea of spending some of their time and resources into doing God's work, not in a way that you show off and like, look at me do God's work. And just, it's between you and God, and you do it, and you become someone who communicates with the divinity within them, forms a relationship, and you start, doing these types of behaviors. I mean, there's people out there who have the capacity to do this, who have the ability for abstract thought and have some sort of internal relationship with God. And when you're able to do that and move forward with your existence like that, with divinity leading the way, you're becoming something. And this is what all saints have done, all spiritual people. Jesus and these, people that people think are so far evolved, they were just getting into this, right? Like, if you think about, what Jesus is now in terms of a brand and what they say he is, and what he really was on the first ring of spirituality. Well, that's a real bummer. Like, if you think about that, like, if Jesus still had farther to go, like, well, what about you? You're not even beginning your journey. And so it's so much easier to hear, well, Jesus can do it for you. Or, you just have to do a little, just be a good person. Well, that's like you're not even beginning to become what you're supposed to become, right? And that's what I'm talking about here. So these lying politicians and all the degradation, being a successful person materially isn't do anything for you spiritually. Usually it just creates more material bondage, right? And it bolsters your ego. And so sitting there and being a binary person and looking for people who are not like you and calling them the enemy and looking for yourself and other people as the hero, and then finding a guy like Trump or finding a guy like, or a person like Kamala, a girl like Kamala, a dude like Kamala, right? Or whatever it is, right? The two-party system or wherever you are. And then just saying, oh, these other people suck and they have to change and we're great on our side. And if everyone's like us, the world will be a better place. That's not even, there's no consciousness there. You don't really even exist as a person. You're just, it's like you're wound up like a wound up toy, and you just follow the, whatever they tell you to do mindlessly. And you don't ever have a like original kind of thought or, maybe there's something more to this and, whatever it might be. And, the Trump stuff and the Biden stuff really illustrates that now. All right, so I'm going to wrap this one up here. It's supposed to be a shorter video, but I think it's probably going to be close to an hour. And then I'll come back with the Kamala stuff in a day or two and, Joe Biden's thing. And, it's kind of an epic time, but, not really, because no one's going to change. So, like, what difference does it make? Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely pointing to the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.